Hey everybody, welcome to Embroidery Sundays. Today I want to talk about the unsung hero of quality embroidery designs, and that's underlay. Underlay are the stitches that support the surface or fill stitches to give your embroidery designs beautiful fills that don't sink into the fabric and outlines that match the design. So I have two things to show you. I have a pre-recorded clips of the Brother PRS 100 persona actually embroidering a design, and I'm going to show you little clips of the kind of fill we're talking about, just so you can kind of see it in action. Plus I have some samples stitched out in front of me. And it's kind of interesting because if you don't digitize your own designs, then this, may be a little bit of a mystery to you. If you do digitize your own designs and you're not getting great results, I'm hoping this will help you create better designs. And I'm using the Premiere Ultra FOF version 2 software. So that's what I'm using. But really all digitizing softwares will have similar options. So you can see I digitized a square, and in this top row I just wanted to show you the difference between a light underlay, a medium underlay, and a more dense or heavy underlay. And you can see what's happening here is the stitches are getting closer together, and basically that's providing a surface mat, for lack of a better word, for the fill stitches to settle on as you're embroidering. And I did let the fill start embroidering on these two examples just so you can see that this is the underlay and this is what the actual fill would look like if I had let it embroider all the way. So this is with this top row is the underlay option I have when I'm working with a standard fill choice. Now another way you can fill a square is with a satin area. Now the satin area is beautiful, and I will show you in a minute how you can create large satin areas, and you can break your stitches up so that you don't have individual satin stitches that are an inch plus long or stretching across the entire shape. But the underlay, the options for a satin area are zigzag. So this is an example of the auto underlay if you choose the zigzag option, and there is no customization in terms of how dense that is. And there also is no customization of the angle of this fill. And that can actually be a problem because this zigzag is actually going in the direction of the satin fill. And sometimes I find that if the zigzag was actually going in the opposite or perpendicular direction, it supports the satin area better. So I'm not a fan of this zigzag underlay. Okay, so this next example is a custom underlay that I digitized myself instead of using an auto option. And it's very easy to do. What you do is you create a duplicate of the shape that you want to create a custom underlay for, and you position it underneath the shape. So I copied my square and then I positioned it underneath the square, and then I changed the fill from the satin area to just a regular fill, and then I made the density 10. So in this case, the density of this is 10, and I could make it a little bit lighter. You can see this density is a little bit heavier than the heavy auto underlay up here. But the cool thing is, with this copied shape that I made a very lightweight fill, I can change the angle of it, I can change the density of the fill, and it's really I like it because it gives me a lot of control over the underlay underneath my satin areas. For the satin area, I shut off, or I chose none for the underlay under the satin area, so this zigzag would be gone. So it would just, you know, stitch out this custom underlay I made, and then the satin stitching would go right on top of it. Now, the option that I think worked the best for me in my journey to get perfectly matching outlines is to add not only a custom fill to my satin areas, but also to add an outline around the edge. So this outline is one of the options in the satin area. So I used my custom underlay that I made by copying the object, changing the fill to a plain fill, and then loosening up the density, or making the density around 10. And then on the satin outline that's right above it, I turned on the outline underlay. So this is a combination of custom underlay and auto underlay combined together, and this really creates the best situation for getting those outlines to match, because what the overall surface underlay does for us is to support the fill stitches, and it helps to keep the design from shrinking in or pulling in. But having this little edge or little straight stitch gives the needle something to stitch to just the outside of when it's doing the fill, and then it helps to create a more accurate outline. So this is an example of that. And then just to finish the point here, on these satin stitched vines, you can either choose the zigzag option for underlay, so this is the auto zigzag option that comes, as a choice, or you can do an edge stitching or an edge walk underlay on your satin stitched vine kind of shape, or you can combine both of them. And again, that's what I found to be really effective when it comes to getting my outlines to match. All right, so those are the kind of underlays that are available to you if you're creating your own designs. If you're working with a design that's you've purchased and it's not stitching out well, check the check the underlay, watch it stitch out, and see if there's enough or any at all. If you're working with a design that doesn't have enough underlay, one option that you have is you can double up on your stabilizer, and that might help support the shape of the design. All right, so now what I want to do is I just want to take a peek at one of my poppy designs stitching out, and I just want to show you the underlays that I created. And everything that I have here is either a custom underlay that I made by copying each shape, putting it underneath, and reducing the density of it, or combining a custom underlay with a auto option in the edge walk. So let's start by looking at the leaf stitch out. Okay, and you can see here it's stitching out the underlay on this portion of the leaf, and notice the direction of the underlay. Now watch the direction in which it's filling, and you can see the fill is perpendicular to the underlay. And I really played with that, and I think that that's really a good way to keep the shape from distorting. All right, so now let's look at the satin stitched vine. And I'm sorry there's some fabric bumped up because I didn't hoop my fabric there, I apologize. But you can see the zigzag underlay is combined with the edge walk underlay. And I'm just going to let the vine stitch out here, because after it stitches out, I want to show you how nicely that outline is matching up with the vine or stem. Okay, so here's now the outline, and you can see how beautifully that matches up. Plus you get a peek at the satin filled poppy bloom. All right, so now let's back up and look at the underlay underneath the poppy. You saw just a glimpse of it, that the satin stitching on the poppy was broken up into shorter stitches, so I don't have gigantic 2-inch long satin stitches going back and forth. So I did break up my stitches, and I'm using a custom underlay where I copied like half of the poppy, put it underneath the fill stitches. All right, you're going to notice that the underlay underneath the poppy bloom is actually cross-hatched, meaning I have underlay going in the horizontal and vertical direction, because I really wanted to create a nice stable area for those satin stitches to settle into and keep it from drawing in around the edges. All right, so to get the underlay that you're going to see stitch out now, I copied the poppy shape, I put it underneath the poppy fill layer, and I reduced the density and changed it to a standard fill. But instead of turning the underlay for this layer off, I put it on light. And what that allows me to do is have a cross-hatched underlay. So I've got underlay going in the horizontal and vertical direction. This is a pretty stable underlay, and what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to keep the stitches from that poppy bloom from pulling in like it wants to do. So I've got an underlay that I made with its own auto underlay set on light. All right, so I'm just going to pull the thread through. I tied a knot and I pulled the thread through to change threads for the actual poppy. And you can see this, what's stitching out right now is the edge walk underlay that's auto-generated for a satin area. And then here is my satin area stitching out, and you can see that the fill is wrapping around the outside edge of that edge walk, and all the underlay is supporting the poppy. All right, so now I'm just fast forwarding through the second half of this poppy, just so you can see it again. Okay. All right, so now what I want to show you is how beautifully the outline matches up to the outside edge of this poppy. So there's some detail on top of the satin filled poppy, and now we're going to start the outline. See how nicely it's matching up with the edge of the poppy? All right, so that's how those underlays stitch out. And I just want to show you one other thing before I go here. This is one of my attempts at, working on my poppy design. And you can see in this stitch out, the outline is not matching up at all. So underneath this poppy, I have the custom underlay that I made, but no edge walk. So after I added the edge walk, and I left everything else the same, so I had that underlay that you saw stitch out was there. All I did was add the edge walk, and then you can see here, let's take a close look at the design that was in the stitching out in the video just a minute ago. So that's almost perfect. I have a few things to fiddle with here, but I'm really excited about the way they're coming out. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on underlay. I just wanted to spend a little time with you to explain what underlay is and how it helps the quality of your design. If you have any questions or comments about this, please post them below and I will help you. Next week we will have another fun embroidery Sunday. I will let you know what the topic is going to be when I get a little bit closer to that, but I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.